Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today I'm doing some masking using die cuts. So here are some of the dies I'm using. I have several snowflake dies by Simon Says Stamp. And then I've got a small snowflake die set by Impression Obsession and some word dies by Penny Black. I've got some spray by Dilutions. It's just a white spray. And then I'm using 3 different colors of blue distress ink. I am just inking up a piece of A2 size neenah solar white cardstock with 3 different distress ink colors. I didn't try this technique with the oxide inks. You may be able to use those, but because I'm putting a spray on top of it, it might react a little bit differently. But I'm trying to make this as dark as possible, and I didn't mind using the distress inks, which don't blend as easily, just because I'm going to be covering a lot of it. So if I do get some blotchy marks, it's going to be just fine. By the way, I used chipped sapphire, salty ocean, and peacock feathers. I'm going to take my large snowflakes and die cut them from some neenah white cardstock. I have 2 of the big ones and then 1 each of the others. Now I'm going to put them in a box here and spray them with my Krylon Easy Tack repositionable spray adhesive. So I'm putting a pretty generous amount on there. And after I let it sit for just a minute, I'm just going to take my tweezers and remove them from the box. I'm going to temporarily stick them to my distress ink panel. I'm just kind of barely touching them onto the cardstock until I figure out exactly where to place everything. Notice that I created another one of those smallest snowflakes just because I needed it to fit into this panel. I actually kind of like the way all these snowflakes look on my cardstock here, so you could actually make this into a card. But I'm going to put this back into my box, and now I'm going to spritz it with this white spray. I'm going to put quite a bit of this spray on here. And then after I spray it, I'm going to take some Perfect Pearls mixed with water in a shimmer, like a mini mister here. I want it to have a little bit more shimmer, so I'm going to spray that. And you can see how the white paint is absorbing into the cardstock, and it's darkening up quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and spray that again. It still looks like it's absorbing a lot into the cardstock, but when you remove the snowflakes, you see how dark the original panel is. And it is just so beautiful in real life to have these inks behind the white. It looks really cool. Now I wanted some more like tiny snowflakes, so I'm going to take my Gonzai Tombi white palette and I'm going to mix up some water here, and I'm just going to splatter some paint from the top. And you can see now I'm getting some what looks like snowflakes, little tiny ones. And I'm going to let this dry, and it's going to actually absorb even more into the paper, and I'm going to do some more snowflakes in a bit. I've cut my piece sentiment in both white and black cardstock, and I'm going to flip over my white one and put some 2-way glue on top, and then I'm going to set it on top of the black one. It was a little tricky because this sentiment is really thin, so this is much easier to do when you have a thicker sentiment. I was sort of focusing on the P, and that was causing me trouble, and then I started focusing on the A and the C, and then it was much easier to place, and the other letters just sort of fell in line. So once I got that on top, I'm just kind of placing it to the right and up a little bit so it looks like it has a shadow. I die cut my smaller Impression Obsession snowflakes with some silver and also some vellum. So I'm just going to take a random sampling of those and position them around my piece die here. And so I'm going to have 3 vellum and 3 silver kind of in a triangle format each, and I want my piece to be on top. So once I get it all laid out, I'm going to carefully take the piece off, and then I'll individually adhere all these snowflakes. For the big one, I'm going to use a glue dot in the center. So I'm just going to take, this is a 1/8 of an inch wide glue dot, roll it up into a ball, and then put it where I want it, because this snowflake actually has a solid center, so it's easy to do this. And the edges are going to pop up, which is just fine. But for the rest of these, I just use my tweezers to flip them over. I put some 2-way glue, mostly in the middle, and then put it back onto the cardstock, and they all stuck just fine. And then I took my sentiment, put some 2-way glue on the back of it, and placed it on top of all of the snowflakes. So this is when I decided to go ahead and add a little bit more snow. So I'm going to take a white gel pen and I'm going to fast forward this. I spent probably a couple of minutes adding these dots. They're just kind of, some of them are small dots, some of them are big dots. And I noticed that if you kind of make a big dot by rolling around in a circle, then you can make a couple of really small ones by just barely touching the paper with the gel pen. So I'm just randomly putting these both on top of the snowflakes and also on the white background until I kind of fill up the area. And this is going to be my last step for this panel. So I'm going to add some Scotch foam tape to the back, and you can see that I'm putting an acrylic block on it to kind of unwarp it before I put the Scotch foam tape on. So I'm going to move my block around. I know you've seen me do this a lot lately, and it's a great way to reshape your cardstock if it's gotten warped. And it did get a little bit warped from my white spray, so you can see how straight it is now. So I'm going to take the release backing off and I'm putting it onto a card base, but when I put it on, I put it way too low. And so I only have a 1/16 of an inch mat all the way around, which is really hard to center. And so I kind of got mad, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I was definitely taking this panel off, and I'm trying to be really careful, but I'm getting sort of angry toward the end, so I'm ripping it, but at least I didn't destroy my panel. So I repositioned it onto another card base, same size, A2. And again, I wish I would have had a 1/8 of an inch mat because it's much easier to center, and it wasn't perfect. But it was better than I did the first time. So you can see I'm sort of like holding it up thinking, oh my gosh, I think I should redo this. But no, I didn't redo it again. I just left it as it is. You know, I tend to be really critical of my own cards, but I really like this. I wish I could invite everybody over to take a look at this in person. It just looks so great. And there's so many possibilities for die cutting and using this spray adhesive to use this technique. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.